Qui Nguyen, a world champion. What a performance, Norman.
He was unpredictable, unconventional, and at this final table, unbeatable.
All right, high rollers, it really was one of the most dominating performances at a main event final table in poker's modern era. Daring, flamboyant play, pure aggression from start to finish, and in the end, there was no answer for Qui Nguyen in 2016. He was firing bullets when he had it, firing bullets when he didn't, and who knows, maybe even on the breaks, firing a few bullets at the baccarat table as well. His chips always moving, and in the end, he had all the chips. Crowned world champion, pocketing more than $8 million. Qui Nguyen has a new book out from our good friends at D&B Poker. It's called From Vietnam to Vegas, How I Won the World Series of Poker. Our guest today is the co-author, Steve Blay. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being our high roller today.
Thanks for having me on the show, Derek.
Now, you're an engineer, founder of AdvancedPokerTraining.com, the world's #1 poker training site. You guys have analyzed 128 million hands and counting. Is that correct?
That is right. Yeah, this is since about 2009. The site has been growing and growing since then, and every hand of poker anyone plays on our site is immediately run through our engines and analyzed. So yeah, we're up to 128 million right now hands of poker that have been played by our members on the site.
That's unbelievable. I was on the site today. It looks great. I saw the hands analyzed, and I had to do a double take on the number. I said, wait a minute, how many? 128 million hands. Okay, so tell us about the site, AdvancedPokerTraining.com. What exactly do you guys do?
So we allow our members to play against, so we have robotic opponents, lifelike opponents that we call bots that they play against, and while they're playing against these opponents, they're getting advice along the way. So the bots are both your friend and your foe, so they of course, they try to learn your game and try to beat you, but you also get an advisor bot who looks over your shoulder and gives you advice while you play. And then, as I mentioned, every hand of poker you play on our site is stored forever to your own personal online database. So then, after you've been playing for a while, you can go in and look at all kinds of reports on your play and see which hands are your trouble hands. If Ace Queen, for example, is one of your trouble hands, it's going to point that out to you in your weekly training plan, and then you can go back to the software and you can just have it deal you Ace Queen over and over and over again, so you can practice playing Ace Queen and get better at it. So it lets you, pick situations. You can freeze the button and put yourself in the big blind over and over again if you're having trouble playing from the big blind, things like that. So we've been working on this site since 2009. It's really a complete poker training system. We're the world's #1 poker training site. We've really got it all, but it's only due to me and a team of us here have been working on this site for, I guess going on about eight or 9 years now.
It's no wonder the players nowadays are so good with sites like yours. I'm wondering your take on the state of poker. We see the heads-up matches with Libratus. We see the bots in play now. So technical is poker, right? The players are very good.
Yeah, so much has changed. I mean, gone are the days back, 10 years ago where you could just kind of play a tight game and wait for everyone else to make huge mistakes by playing, hands they shouldn't be playing pre-flop and stuff like that. The game has really gone to a new level, but that doesn't mean it's still not a profitable game to play. You just, like in any other sport, you just have to continue to adjust your game as the competition has adjusted. So there's still profit to be made out there. It's just that, your players are definitely better today than they were 10 years ago.
I'll tell you my personal story. I switched online from Hold'em to Omaha High-Low. I find that I can win at that game. Hold'em just got so tough for me, and I found that I couldn't even beat the 5-cent, 10-cent game. I'm going, what's going on? I just realized my answer. I'm playing against guys that can go to AdvancedPokerTraining.com and play Ace Queen a million times.
Yeah, definitely. And online also, the competition is a lot tougher online than at live poker rooms. You're right. The 5-cent, 10-cent table online might be equivalent to the players that are playing at a $1, $2 table at a live card room. So, and that is part of the influence of advanced poker training and all the great information out there available online now that, guys have just gotten a lot better. So I hear what you're saying about going. Omaha is also where a lot of the real gamblers are kind of playing Omaha these days because the pots get so big and there's more excitement. But that being said, I still go back to saying that there's still plenty of money to be made in Hold'em. You just gotta be a little bit better than everybody else.
Well, the bottom line is you can't just play nowadays. You have to study as well. You have to take on sites like advancedpokertraining.com because your opponents are doing the work.
Yep, that's true.
One thing about advancedpokertraining.com that I did not realize until I started doing some research for this interview with respect to Qui Nguyen is that in 2016, you ran some simulations of the final table, which kept predicting that Qui Nguyen would take down the title. Can you talk about that and how that developed into a friendship with the world champion?
Yeah, that was a great story. I mean, that's how we actually got in touch with each other, is because I ran simulations. So I was contacted by PokerNews.com originally, who wanted me to run some simulations on the final table. And they knew that I have software where I can create bots with any kind of personality type. And so we got every bit of information we could find about the November 9 and any hand histories, any playing history online, anything we knew about their personality types from interviews we'd heard of them. And I built a bot representing all 9 players at the final table and gave them all the exact chip stack they were going to be starting with and sat them at a table exactly where they were going to be sitting. And I ran, of course, for a computer to run thousands of simulations, it doesn't take it very long. So I ran simulations of the final table over and over again and tried to see what kind of data we could get out of there. And the one thing we found is this Qui Nguyen bot we had built was winning much more often than he should have. So, he wasn't winning every time, but he was winning much more often than he should have based on just his chip stack. I think when we ran 1,000 simulations, he might have won, 300 of those or something like that. It was a lot more than he should have by the pure math of how many chips he had. So we published these findings on Poker News, and it got a lot of buzz in the poker world. And Qui actually read this article from out in Vegas, and through my agent out there in Vegas, got in touch with me and called me up, and we started talking. He kind of said, "Okay, well, hey, Mr. Smarty Pants, you think you can show me how to win this thing? Come on out here, and I'm going to fly you out to Vegas. Let's talk about this." And so, the rest is kind of history. I flew out to Vegas, and Qui and I spent a few days together. And what I ended up finding out really is, and I think it's important to note this, is some people have been, based on the relationship Qui and I had, some people have been calling me his coach. And I don't really think that's, he was already an exceptional poker player. And I didn't realize that because all the press he had been getting kind of had made him look like a crazy baccarat player, and he's kind of like the newbie at the game. But he had been playing professionally for many years out in Las Vegas, supporting his family that way. So he already had amazing poker skills and, of course, amazing instincts. So I feel like I was kind of his advisor, or maybe his team manager, something like that. But we spent a few days together talking poker, and I was there behind the scenes, of course, during the main event, during the final table. And, obviously, as you said at the beginning of the show, he won in just a dominating fashion. I don't think anyone had seen anything like that in a long time, and the other players were pretty helpless against his strategy. And so he kind of played just like the way the Qui Nguyen bot predicted he was going to play, and he blew everybody away. And, once that was finished, then we started talking about putting this book together, and we've been, working together ever since.
Well, it really is an unbelievable story. As Norman Chad would say, his opponents were bamboozled. I mean, they just had no clue what he was doing. You get to a final table of the main event of the World Series of Poker, no matter who you are. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. So here Qui Nguyen is, he reads your article, flies you out there. You have to approach this as well as an opportunity of a lifetime for yourself. So how did you approach it, and what did you advise Qui on when you got there?
It really was. I just feel so lucky, so blessed to have been involved in this and just have been at the right place at the right time for this to all come together. I was trying to, the funny thing is I also had Young Fan, who's a well-known Vegas poker pro and a Vietnamese speaker as well. He was in our corner, so the two of us were kind of acting as Qui's advisors. The funny thing is we kept kind of encouraging him to slow down a little bit. I mean, he was, his every hand he was in there mixing it up and betting and raising, and so it felt like our job was we kept, we were on the rail there. We kept telling him, small ball, play small ball, slow down a little bit, which of course is not, that's just not his style at all. But it was amazing working with him and seeing the way he thinks. And then this past year, we've been working on this book for almost an entire year now, and I've had just the most amazing experience trying to really get into what is going on in his head. I mean, how can we all? I think for all of us poker players, it's kind of our dream to play like Qui Nguyen did that night. And, how can we capture that? No book has really answered that question. There's so many poker math books and stuff like that. And, of course, my background is in game theory and poker math. But, how do you really capture Qui Nguyen in a book? And how do the rest of us learn to play like that and learn to have these amazing instincts that he had? So what I've tried to capture in the book is what is he doing that we're not doing? What is going on in his head that us mortal poker players are not able to do?
Oh man, when you talk about playing like Qui Nguyen, it's the dream. Just for a day, right? Just for a day to play like that, go on that rush. It really is the $8 million question. And I think one of the after photos, in the celebrations when he was there with all his fans and family, all in the red shirts there, the banner read, "Heart of a Champion." I mean, how do you measure heart? And he certainly had it playing that final table. That was unreal.
Yeah, I think it was Antonio Esfandiari who said he played with more heart than anyone he had ever seen at the final table, and he really nailed it there by saying that. He was just relentless. He played with this, tenacity that nobody else showed. And when I really got into getting to know him, he has a lot of instinct. I use that word instinct. Now, as I talk about in the book, my wife, who's the English major of the family, says that actually wisdom is a better word for it, because instinct is something that is something that animals have. A squirrel runs up a tree to get away from you. That's just instinct. It's something that an animal is born with. But wisdom is something that comes from many, many years of hard work and experience. And maybe what Qui had is more wisdom, where he was always able to describe to me exactly all the pieces of the puzzle he was putting together at every decision point in the poker game. And some of that was based on having a good short-term memory. Like he would say, oh, okay, well, in this hand I decided Michael Ruan didn't have ace-queen because I remembered back on hand 27 he had actually folded ace-queen in a similar situation. And that was real good short-term memory to begin with, that you or I might not have remembered that Michael Ruan folded ace-queen back on hand 27. But he also has this amazing just wisdom of his many years of poker. He's able to put it all together and read something from someone's body language that maybe he learned years ago, that when a guy kind of looks like this, it usually means he's weak or strong. In the book, we kind of theorize that this has come from really a lifetime of work by Qui, because as Qui talks about in the book, he grew up pretty much on the streets of Saigon, after the Vietnam War. For him, as a child, learning to read people was kind of life or death. He said that Saigon was worse than the worst inner city here in America. So he was always kind of using his instincts to keep himself alive. And so maybe as a child he was able to kind of hone those instincts, and now reading people comes very naturally to him. That's the theory we came up with, at least, that why he's able to do this so successfully, because he'll remember things from years ago that just he's able to process this all in real time and put the pieces of the puzzle together and find out whether someone is weak or strong. And then, as we saw, if he decides you're weak, it doesn't matter what cards he's holding. He's going to be betting and raising, and he's going to bully you off the hand if he's determined that you're weak for some reason.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about wisdom. It's an interesting balance. Wisdom, there's fear. Some players play with fear and they're afraid to put the money in. He's definitely got gamble. And he's not afraid, right? That's one of the keys. You got to be smart about it, but at the same time, when you think your opponent is weak, have no fear and just do what you think the right play is. And that's where a lot of us fail. He did not.
Yeah, you're right. He's not afraid of anything. It doesn't matter whether he's playing a 2-5 cash game or playing for $8 million. If he puts you on a hand, he's going to trust his reads, and he's not afraid to gamble it up even for $8 million, as he showed time and time again there during the final table. So that'll definitely take you far when you're playing high stakes poker, because your opponents are going to be playing with some fear. Nobody wants to go out in 7th place or 8th place or something like that. And so from day one of the final table, he just started pushing people around, and no fear at any point.
I'm always interested in people that come from another country at a young age and try to make a new beginning. That takes a lot of guts in itself, right? He came over to America at the age of 24, right? Worked in a nail salon, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So he came over here, not knowing a lot. He had a little bit of family over here, but not much. And he, worked odd jobs. Yeah, one of them being working in a nail salon so he could work on his English skills while doing, women's nails. I think that's part of it too. He's really been a risk taker his whole life, and what an act of bravery coming over here. And he lived not only in Southern California, he lived in Vegas, he lived up in Alaska for a while.
Wow.
He lived here in Florida, where I am, for a while, and just has always been, just a businessman type. He ran different businesses over the years, and so I think it all works together. When you think of the instincts he has from his growing up in Saigon to always being willing to take risks throughout his life, you put all the pieces of the puzzle together and it makes for an exceptional poker player, which is what he is.
The book is called From Vietnam to Vegas. You mentioned Antonio Esfandiari, one of the best ever, and he forwarded this book.
He did, yeah. And Qui and Antonio have become friends out there. And Qui really looks up to Antonio, both as a poker player and as a person. And so we contacted Antonio and said he'd be happy to do the foreword for us. And we were thrilled, of course, to have someone like Antonio do the foreword for the book.
You talk about Qui Nguyen. All I knew about this man before 2016 in that main event final table was that he was active. You hear the stories about the Baccarat. You mentioned that. I thought he was a crazy gambler, right? How could you be a professional Baccarat player with the house edge, So I was wondering. Then you see him in that baller jacket, the baller baseball hat, and then just the pure aggression. I thought he came out of nowhere, but you're saying that's not the case at all, that he put the work in.
That's right, yeah. And I don't know why they kept saying that during some of the shows leading up to the final table, where they were doing the backstory on all of the November Niners. They kept kind of calling him this crazy gambler, this beginner. So he had been playing, really, I mentioned he was up in Alaska. He used to play poker up in Alaska. He was here in Florida for many years, playing high-stakes poker down here in Florida. And then in Las Vegas, he had been playing in 2-5 and 5-10 games at the Aria and the Bellagio for many years, and really, almost full-time or at least part-time. So he's put in a lot of hours playing poker. And I think that's important to note, because it would be kind of unfair to all of the professional poker players out there who put so much work into their game if it appeared that someone really could come out of nowhere and all of a sudden just dominate everyone at the final table like that with no playing history whatsoever, almost like there's no skill in this game, that all you need is aggression and you can be the best player in the world. And so, I think it's important that people realize that he has a lot of years of professional and semi-professional poker playing. He also was known as, he used to play a lot of sit-and-goes as well out in Vegas, especially during the World Series of Poker. And in fact, that's how he got into the main event, was through a $1,000 buy-in, one-table sit-and-go, where first place got a seat to the main event. But he used to play sit-and-goes for profit as well. He would play cash sit-and-goes during the World Series of Poker for hours on end. And so, that I think that helped as well, because of course a sit-and-go is kind of like playing the final table. So he had a lot of experience playing a final table, if you think of a sit-and-go as like just a miniature final table.
Yeah, I want to go back to those simulations real quick. Why did the simulations, do you think? Was it just his aggression, keep predicting that, or at least the majority of the time, that he would win the thing? Was it just because of his style of play against the others?
Yeah, I think his style really, their playing styles didn't match up with the level of aggression that he showed. The player that gave him the toughest time, both in the simulations and really at the final table as well, was Cliff Josephy. And that's because Cliff Josephy also played a similarly aggressive style to Qui. So in the book, you'll notice at several points he talks about his goal was to get rid of Cliff Josephy. And that had nothing to do with not liking the man personally or anything like that. But he knew that Cliff would be his toughest opponent because Cliff was the only one who was going to play back at him. And several times, as you saw, they did clash. So when it got down to the final three there, when it was Cliff Josephy, Qui Nguyen, and Gordon Vayo, Qui's only goal was to get rid of Cliff Josephy because he knew that if he went heads up against Gordon Vayo, he felt confident that he could win that heads up match pretty easily. And that is what ended up happening. Of course, the heads up match went on for, 8 hours, something like that. It was the longest heads up match of all time. But he was right that Gordon Vayo's style didn't match up well against his. But Cliff Josephy's did, so that's why he was very glad when Cliff went out and he got to go heads up against Gordon.
Cliff Josephy, Johnny Bax, one of the greatest ever, so a tough opponent indeed. John Hesp, last year he finished fourth. The Englishman, it seems like they're making a movie about him now. You had Jamie Gold in 2006, a real character. And Qui Nguyen in 2016, I think he fits in that category. He really stole the show. Why do you think it is that characters like this come, into the limelight and steal the show?
I think people want to see personality. They want to see people having fun playing poker. Nobody wants to see a boring game theory guy up there who's just analyzing every hand purely from a math standpoint, isn't mixing it up and isn't talking to his opponents and using some speech play and that kind of thing. And I just think that, guys like Qui and John Hesp are great for poker because that's what everybody wants to see. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to have fun playing poker. As long as people can keep the game fun, poker will continue to be, an exciting pastime for everyone. So yeah, I think they do well just because of the fact that, they're just exciting to watch and everyone wants to see somebody having fun.
Yeah, he had the poker world on edge. I think a lot of us were waiting for him to slip up. He was just so aggressive. He never did. Gordon Vayo was lost. He won that heads-up match with relative ease. He seemed to put the pressure on to no end, and there was just no answer. And I think the prevailing thought is, like you said earlier, just for a day. If we could just play like that for one day and feel what it was like, that would be awesome because he was having fun at that final table. D&B Poker, you're with D&B Poker, a great publisher. You've got a good roster of players there with some good titles. So that's got to be a compliment.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to Dan and Byron at D&B Publishing. When Qui and I first thought about the idea of putting a book together, I didn't know much about, I thought, well, do we self-publish this or something like that? And then I got in touch with D&B, and it's just been fantastic working with them. And this book would have never gotten put together if it wasn't for their help. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to check out D&B Poker. They've got just some amazing books. Jonathan Little has some great books through them, and they've got so much other stuff. They've got a book by Phil Hellmuth. So yeah, they were fantastic to work with.
How has Qui Nguyen been accepted in the poker world with guys? We know he's well liked by Antonio, but past world champions and some of the top names. Is he fitting right in? Did he get along with everybody?
It's tough for me to answer that question just because he hasn't been, unlike some of the other world champions, he has not been touring the international poker circuit that much this year. He's really been taking some time off. He has a son, Kyle, who is 5 now, maybe 6 years old, and he's been spending a ton of time with his son this year. He bought a new house with a pool because his son always wanted a pool, so they bought a really nice house out in Vegas. He's been really not totally taking time off from poker because he has played a few events here and there, but he's really been concentrating on his son and trying to take it easy. So to be honest, I can't answer too much how he's fit into the poker community and how the other professional poker players feel about him because he hasn't been hanging out with them too much just yet. He's really been trying to stay away from full-time poker.
I'll tell you what, it's a great story. My book is on its way, so I can't wait to read it. You want to check out advancedpokertraining.com. On Twitter, it's @pokertraining. And Steve, I understand you're doing some private coaching right now and putting some time into that.
I have been. Yeah, I used to coach a while back, and I'd kind of got out of it. And then when this whole thing with Qui happened, I got back into private one-on-one coaching, and I'm enjoying that a lot. I enjoy coaching because it helps me to, it even helps my own poker game to be able to, I have to be able to explain my thought process in a concrete way to people. So, if anyone's interested in doing some one-on-one coaching with me, they can, check out steveblay.com is my coaching website.
Well, you've got a good tagline, advised the world champion.
Yeah.
That always helps, my man.
I really hope people enjoy the book too, and I think that it really does give them a glimpse into this thought process of Qui. And in the book we review over 170 different hands from the main event final table. So in each one of them, Qui, in his own words, goes right into his thought process and lets people know what he was really thinking and what read he put on his opponents. And so I really think it'll help people to really, who knows, maybe they will be able to take some of that Qui Nguyen instinct and incorporate it into their own game.
Yeah, that Qui Nguyen wisdom, right? Steve Blay,
Yep.
co-author of Qui Nguyen's new book, From Vietnam to Vegas, How I Won the World Series of Poker. Qui Nguyen let his chips do the talking. Loose, aggressive. He was the table captain. His style of play, just too good in 2016. Steve, thank you so much for your time, man. Good luck with the book.
Thanks a lot, Derek. I enjoyed it.
Where we now call Qui Nguyen a world champion. What a performance, Norman.
He was unpredictable, unconventional, and at this final table, unbeatable.